realize that this hoodie is becoming like my work uniform, but this is home, both literally and figuratively. So, hello, friends. We are here to talk about the latest episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac that could have been sent via email, but there are things to discuss. I mean, I guess we start off with the aftermath. This piece of hair here is gonna blow me. With the aftermath of the whole Stacey heard the rumor about the rehab or whatever from that group of ladies. You guys know who I'm talking about. And she brings it to Karen, and Karen kind of drops this weird. I was gonna say bomb, but not necessarily even bomb. I would say allegation, and loosely on allegation, because I don't believe that there's any truth behind it. I think she was just talking. But anywho, it's a weird thing to just kind of throw out there. But she does say, Mia went to rehab herself because Mia had an opioid addiction, and that's why she started the joint chiropractic. And for those who aren't familiar with what chiropractors do, we saw a little bit of it for whatever reason this episode, but they basically do like physical things. It's not necessarily like psychological or addiction things that I know of. I feel like the more I press on this, the dumber I get. So anyway, Karen says that, and it was really stupid, and I appreciate that we got, because like I said maybe it was last review, having the new ladies and getting that reason, what was the reason into the season and not just the silliness. It's nice to see Stacey be like, hey, I love Karen, but we ain't finna do that. Mia's a lot of things, but we ain't finna do that. So yeah, I don't know what that was about. Obviously, we got this thing that we've been getting for the past beginning of the season with the ladies beefing and Wendy saying, what's my birthday? Let's celebrate my birthday. That's gotten old, okay? Ashley is at the pool talking to her kids. Nothing against her kids, got to be clear, because y'all get a little weird in the analytical abilities. But Ashley doesn't have a storyline. But then all the ladies come to the pool. JASSI falls in, and then they start talking about Stacey's divorce and when is that going to be final. That's a weird question, but she doesn't know. Whenever they get things together, and then they kind of start talking about Ashley's, and Ashley. Interesting point. Ashley's like, well, I'm going to mediation, so I'm getting the ball rolling, and then I'm going to come up with an agreement, and I'm going to file for my divorce. And it's like, again, for those who don't know, I was a divorce attorney. It's my first job out of law school. So, obviously, laws are different in each state, or maybe not obviously if you didn't know that. But I believe that this is probably similar in most states, at least. So, yeah, like going to mediation would be one of those first things you do to see if you can come up with like a preliminary agreement, so that when you go into the divorce, it kind of makes things a little more easier because you've agreed to some things in that mediation. But this just tells me, I'm saying all that to say, she's still at the very end of this divorce, hasn't even filed for the divorce. Like, typically, actually, you probably could go to mediation, but it would be your own private mediation, I guess. But typically, you would file for the divorce and then move forward with mediation. But she's talking about doing mediation and then going for the divorce, which then tells me if the laws are what I think that they are, she don't know what the hell she's talking about, and she's not getting no divorce. But she did give a date, so I guess maybe they are going to mediation. I don't know. At the end of the day, Ashley ain't filed for divorce yet. They also talk a bit about, and I think it's interesting that both JASSI and Kiana have men that have children. And I'm just thinking like, damn, is that the inevitable? Obviously, I'm not necessarily, well, who knows what'll happen, child. But I'm not anticipating being in any type of like hetero relationship where that will be a factor for me. But I'm wondering, does that almost kind of become a norm as you get older, right? Like, because I'm in my 30s, so I'm like wondering like, damn, is that almost inevitable? And Stacey points out to the audience, I just think Stacey is the star of the show, I love this, but she points out that the story that JASSI has about her man and her kids is a little bit wonky, and there's more to the story, and we briefly get a history on it. And when she told Mia, I don't remember if this was all on camera. I remember them having that conversation, or I had seen it in some capacity, but I don't remember getting all of those details, or maybe I wasn't listening. So I appreciate the refresher. But, she's basically saying that when she started dating the guy, she's vaguely saying when she started dating the guy, there was already a child in place. And then when they got like more serious, they found out that there was another child on the way, I guess, with the same mother. So it is interesting. I'm going to tell y'all a secret before we even really get there, because they talk about it more later. Actually, we're not. I'm gonna let, we'll talk about it when we get there. So Stacy is dancing, and back to my girl Stacy. Like, we're kind of getting this filler scene. At this point, I think it had been. Y'all know I like to watch the clock as I watch the episode. I want to see what bang for my buck I'm getting, and it would probably have been about 10 minutes of the episode of us getting pretty much nothing. But it is funny to see Stacy dancing and being stiff or whatever the hell, and I just enjoyed it. I'm like, she's funny as hell. And we obviously did get that part where I didn't even clock it. I'm glad that they like tuned into it. Mia was like trying to dance on Kiana, and like Kiana's like, girl, it ain't giving that. Like, we not making up, girl. You still. So Giselle gets back. Okay. I guess I don't know. Like the word on the street being Twitter is like, ooh, Giselle came in, she was asking the questions that we need to be asked, and I don't know that Giselle pushed the envelope for me this episode. Like, it's nice to have her back, I guess, but she didn't really push the envelope for me. But, Jassy starts filling Giselle in on what was happening, more specifically with like Kiana and Ashley, because she's sitting at the table when Giselle came in. Even Giselle's like, well, Kiana obviously has a scar in the middle of her forehead. So they kind of talk about that briefly. But then all the ladies kind of like join in, and they ended up taking shots, and we just kind of move on. But while they are taking a shot, Mia does a thing where she kind of puts the bottle down her throat a little bit. The ladies did like a wow thing. I don't know that my reaction was like admiration or like, I don't know. I just kind of was like, okay. But, she makes this joke of that's how you keep two men. And just like Giselle clocks, I'm like, girl, there it is. Like, now you're showing us that this is, as we already knew, all a game to you, this whole Gordon and Ink thing. But I'm assuming we're going to get into that more this season. So they're in the car going to do something that they have no business doing. But we're talking again with Stacey about TJ. Ooh, I'm going to get abundantly tired of hearing about this relationship. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be honest with you. And not because necessarily of Stacey, not necessarily because of TJ, because it's just redundant at this point. And even when they went into it, like when Giselle was asking the questions that people wanted to ask, and she's talking about their sex life, like I just feel like it's been stated, it's been understood. Maybe some ladies weren't around and they're living in real time and this is them filming the show, fine. But we get this film back, right? And we edit it, right? And we create these episodes. So for the audience, it's a little one note and it's a little redundant. Like I can imagine, okay, that there are people in this world that are very riled up or excited or have a lot of thoughts about this whole Stacey and TJ not being sexually active thing. It is not important to me. It's not important. Even if it's not even rooted in religion like they say it is and there's something else, it's still not important. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, it's not even tea. Like, I see no component of that being exciting. But what's actually interesting to me was getting his full government name and learning that he acts and catching the shade of, like, was he a background actor? Like, is he an extra? Like, what's going on here? Because I was trying to clock, like, she was saying big name shows, and she may have seen a movie or two. I don't know. It's big name titles. Big name titles. That's redundant, but whatever. So it's her storyline. But, she said that. And I couldn't clock what role he was playing, though. Even though I saw they did like a screenshot, but I'll probably go back and look. I probably won't. But Stacey did eat her up when she's like, Giselle can do all the laughing she wants alone. Like, she ain't got no man, so I don't really care. And I'm like, honestly, let's wrap it up with a bow. But we know we'll be back on this storyline again. And also, like, Mia's wearing me out with these blonde wigs, y'all. Like, do y'all like those? Do y'all like those blonde wigs? Because I cannot stand them. And so when they had come back from commercial at some point, Mia did another brief explanation of why we are in Charlotte. If that's where we are, I can't even remember. So I'm like, they're really having to beat into our head, like, why we're here. Because now we've been here, this is the third episode? And I wasn't necessarily harping on it, to be honest with you. I think because this episode went the way that it did, they had to highlight it again. But I think that they were doing pretty well for a domestic trip. They should have shortened it to 2 episodes though. But we get that, and then I kind of like blinked and they were at the joint chiropractic watching somebody get their back corrected. I could have sworn when it was introduced that they were going to get corrections. That still would have been not entertaining, but I think it would have made more sense. but I don't know. So they get there and somebody else is getting in. They're all just kind of standing around, and we are getting what was some like comical footage of them kind of like staring blankly, and the ladies like going into the confessional like, "Why are we here? What's going on? Mia's not proving anything." But for the sake of again the audience, I don't know why they gave us that. But we learned that Mia had 22 of those and that she's selling them and going to be starting a new venture. So I mean, I guess that's that's cool. Then they get lunch. Karen's not drinking, and Ashley's like, I've seen this song and dance before where Karen doesn't drink because of whatever reason, but it's really because of her drinking problem. She didn't say those words, but I'm inferring that's what the story is. And I know I'm begging desperately for them to kind of spell that out for us, but I'm not going to keep repeating it. I'm just going to let it happen. But that aside, if there's not a drinking problem and there's just a DUI, I don't remember if I spoke on this or not, because I think about it with Orange County, and then I do these reviews because you got Shannon with the DUI, and now you got Karen. So I'm like, my opinion is, I think I did speak on this, but anywho, just a refresher. My opinion is DUI doesn't mean you can't drink. So if there's a drinking problem, which I think they should spell out a little bit more, then yeah, she probably should not be drinking. But I probably still will be on the heel of like, just not necessarily my business. Like, I don't know that I care about that much either. And so now Giselle does her thing of like trying to catch up, which I can appreciate. I wish that it had been facilitated a little bit better, and you kind of are feeling the mood of the group. It feels like they're fresh off of an argument. Like at this point, they're burned out. They don't want to beef no more, and there are still some tensions. So even when Giselle is kind of like jumping into the stuff, she's not really getting anything out of it, right? Like she talks about the Ashley and Kiarna thing first, and Ashley's like, "Well, I apologize to Kiarna. I don't remember seeing that, but I guess." And they acknowledge that, and then Kiarna says like, "Well, she was really piggybacking off of Mia." So she and Mia really kind of start getting into it, and they are kind of regurgitating things from the argument before. So, and I understand, I believe that it was the same day. So now I guess I can understand that. But that's why I kind of feel like, if I'm not mistaken, that's why I kind of feel like it should have just went into one episode. It's weird to be on this next episode talking about what happened in the last episode, like verbatim. So they're basically saying the same things to each other. And I just kind of wish that that argument, even though it was happening, I believe, like I said, in the same day, or even if it was the next day, that's still soon. I still feel like that argument could have moved a little bit further, because I feel like Kiarna could have focused less on going back and forth with Mia on the like specifics of the stupidity, instead of just saying like, that's not somebody I'm dating right now, so why, like, I don't understand why this matters, because it doesn't. Jazzy announces that she's going to be having an event because her man, is in the NFL, and they won the Super Bowl, and so they're going to have a party, and she's going to have a lot of single men there. I was interested to hear them kind of kiki about that at least a little bit, but they didn't. So we'll see. But it was a weird segue into Jacqueline talking about how she lost weight and works out now. And I was wondering if she was saying that because she wanted to like possibly meet a guy at this event, because I'm like, well, what happened with you and your man that you're rekindling with? I don't know. But then she says, that working out makes her feel like people can't F with her. And Giselle is like, and look, I'm going to have to give Giselle her credit. It was a very weak segue, but I think she's trying to get us back on track because we ain't talking about nothing. And she's like, is that how you feel like up towards Karen? Because I heard you guys had some things going on. Still trying to get caught up. And the girls at this side of the table, honey, they're just kikiing down because at this point, they can't even take Jacqueline seriously, baby. Like, they don't care. And they're like, honestly, Karen was giving more so like Wonder Woman with the bracelets, like blocking all the tea. And Jacqueline's fed up. She's like, there's a lot of ass kissing down there. But it's like, girl, Mia has clocked out. She's not jumping to your defense anymore for whatever reason. And everything you say kind of falls flat. I don't remember what she was talking about, but I think Jazzy just looked absolutely stunning in her confessional look. We then get this scene with Ashley and Giselle kind of catching up. At this point, I think we're actually going to really get some tea, and we don't. But she does. This couldn't have pissed me off anymore, but Ashley talks about this, what's the name of the song? Healing and Thriving, which is such an awful title. But that song that she was singing, I think it was last season, and I guess that was a real thing. So now she's really doing it, but now it has an EDM beat. So I'm like, does this go with your, you do drag shows storyline? But the song didn't even really sound like EDM, honestly. And Giselle was like, well, that don't really sound like EDM. And Ashley, please. Ashley has no storyline. So the ladies getting there all red to go to the final dinner or whatever, and Wendy has on all white, but like there's a red lip, and I thought she looked stunning. That to take away from the fact, and I wasn't gonna say this, but it felt like Bride and Bridesmaids, to be honest. And I don't even know if that was the plan, because Mia did say everybody wear red, so I think maybe like Wendy did that herself, which I mean, she looked great. And because there's nothing happening on this show, and I understand the gravity of this, because there's nothing happening on this episode, there's nothing happening for us viewers, right? But imagine months ago, this is in May, end of May, when they're recording this, and obviously at this point there's nothing happening on the trip. That's why they can't give us nothing on the camera. Like, notice this, the cause and effect, this is the reality. So they have to play F, Marry, Kill, because they don't got nothing else to do and nothing else to talk about. And then as a result, since we didn't get any footage or anything, when the show comes out months later, 6 months later, they gotta show us them playing F, Marry, Kill on this camera. Don't nobody want to see that. But in it, we get some tea that I know we're not going to come back around to. But Jacqueline basically says she would F Mia because she already has. And I went back in my memory bank as best as I could. And I'm like, yeah, we haven't gotten that particular story. And then Mia's like, she talked too much. And then the ladies go back to their storyline of like, well, Jacqueline's obsessed with Mia. And now it parlays into like, she has like a girl crush on her, weird stuff. And Jacqueline has this very weird confessional that doesn't do her any favors. And she's like, I don't care about the other stuff that Mia does with girls. I'm like the number one doll or whatever. And I'm like maybe you are as weird as they say. I was trying to give her a little bit of grace. What I did like at the dinner is that Wendy was able to go through her thing of talking about her time on the show, and she's 40 now. She was 35 when she started. She had just had her third child. She went through these body changes and these appearance changes, and trying to figure out what she really wanted to do with her life. And I feel like the story to me though was kind of anticlimactic, because she was like, now I'm 40, I realize I don't have to do anything, I'm enough. I'm like, damn, so were we doing all that for nothing? But I don't think that's what she meant, but that's just how it sounded. But I was happy to hear it, because I don't remember what I watched with Wendy. Maybe an interview. I'm assuming an interview. And she was talking about this natural journey of being in her 30s and exploring and wanting to do other things. She did what she had to do and was supposed to do. Now she wants to figure out what she wants to do. And that's a natural thing, and I don't feel like it played out well on the show. So it's nice that she gets to at least squeeze it in here. It was boring, but I'm glad that she was able to get it out. We also get a scene of like watching ladies say positive affirmations about Mia and what that... About Mia, exactly. About Wendy and like what they like about Wendy. So, I thought that was good, because we haven't gotten a lot of that on the show at all either. So I'm glad that she at least got that moment. But Jacqueline does something weird again, and she's like, when I came in, you act like you didn't know me, but I'm here to stay. And it's like, no, you're not. But then Stacey gets to work, thank God. And she's like, we've been talking a lot about me and my man, but we haven't talked about Jazzy and her man. And again, Jazzy, gives that same story of, basically... He has a 1-year-old. He has a 3-year-old. They asked her how they trying to do some math now. They're like, how long y'all been together? She said a couple years. I'm like, girl, you throwing out all them numbers, and then we asked how long y'all been together, and you talking about a couple. Which one is it? But, basically they've been together a couple years, and the 3-year-old was already there when they started dating, I guess, and then they were getting serious, and he found out that there was another one on the way, so now there's another one in the midst, and all this stuff that everybody is just like. And Ashley did this very long verbal math problem, which I would love to see broken down, or I'll probably go back and listen to it, because I wonder if it did have some merit. Like, I'm wondering if Ashley did have a contribution to this episode. And then it seems like, I guess, Kiana's coming to her defense, because the ladies are looking at her funny, and she's like, well, I've been in a similar situation. I dated a guy that had 2 women pregnant at the same time. He was in the league, and Mia's like, well, who, girl? I'm trying to figure out if it's the same guy because I had the same situation. Obviously, Mia trying to be messy, so everybody's like, Mia, please, like, bye, boom, whatever. And that goes flat. So I'm just like, what is this episode about? But then essentially Giselle sums it all up in her confessional. She's like, girl, Jazzy, he was cheating on you while y'all was together. Like, just say that, and you decided to stay with him. Like, just say that. That's the story. But no Sade, no Sade. But I'm just like, you ain't tell Robyn that. And at the very end of an episode of misfortunate and unnecessary events, Stacy says that Ashley encourages her to be more open about her divorce because Ashley talks about her divorce that hasn't even been filed for and doesn't exist. I did think that it was funny the next day, when the girls are hungover. And there was some chatter about like Jazzy being upset still about the math problem that was happening with her relationship, but they didn't too much get into it. So I don't know, no. I feel like this episode was very poorly put together, and they could have squeezed it into 30 minutes, which they could have forced into two supersized episodes. You know how to give us supersized episodes, so an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 15 minutes for that trip, and let's get the hell back to Potomac and let's do something else. So this episode for me just felt like a lot of leftover, and even still though, if you think about it in its own isolated thing, there's nothing in this episode that we needed. Like we could have talked about Jazzy at any time. So at her party. So drama at the party. Damn. If I can go back in time and produce. But anywho, yeah, that was the episode. Did we get a preview for next episode? I don't recall. But anywho, we'll be back for the next one, and we'll see.